This webinar will be available at appraisergenie.com. You can click on the training tab to view this later. Looks like everyone's joined the room for the most part, so we'll go ahead and get started. If you guys can just acknowledge that you can hear me, please, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, I've taken everyone off of mute. Okay, thank you guys. All right, so if you guys are a brand new user to Appraiser Genie, you'll see on my screen the instructions for your MLS. One thing that has to be done before you can use Appraiser Genie is we have to map your individual MLS to the Genie. If you go to appraisergenie.com, you'll find a list of MLSs that we've already mapped. We still have to set up an actual template under each appraiser's login. So if your MLS is on that list, we still have to set you up individually. So in order to use a Genie, your MLS must allow you to export your neighborhood search into a file that you save to your computer. When you use Appraiser Genie, you're responsible for logging into your MLS. You'll create a neighborhood search based on the subject property. We do not have direct access to your MLS, which is why you then download the search to a file on your computer. So all you guys do is you define the neighborhood boundaries in your MLS, and you can narrow that down further once you're inside Appraiser Genie. So just keep in mind when you define your MLS search, the criteria that you're actually going to use will complete your page 1 unit housing trends, and your high-low predominant value. So you're in control of what's actually exported back to your report. Just keep that in mind. Once you have the criteria that you feel is accurate, all you do is actually save that file to your computer. Later on, you'll import that into Appraiser Genie, and that's how we actually provide all the support, the analysis, the backup, etc. Okay, so if your MLS has not been mapped, if you're a brand new user, you can email mls@appraisergenie.com for more information on getting started. This is free to you. We don't charge you anything for this, and you do not have to send us any sensitive information. So go ahead and email them if necessary. All right, so what you guys see behind you is a report in total, of course, which is the software we will use today. I just have a test report just to give you guys an idea of what you'll want to have filled out in the report before you start. So of course you're going to want to have the subject information entered here. As you can see, I have the address, city, state, zip, and county. You can leave the rest of this actually blank. We do pull the legal and parcel number. We're actually upgrading our public record verification, so this won't come through today. But when you guys run this on your own, this will pre-populate if you don't have it in the report. If you do, we'll just use whatever you have there. Okay, I leave this 1 unit housing trends empty, and the 1 unit housing trends high-low predominant. As stated, we'll complete this for you in the Genie, and we will export this back to the report for you. Going down, the improvement section, I just have general information filled out relating to the subject as far as your bill, effective age, how many stories, heating, cooling, if there's a fireplace, patio, and of course garage count. And I just have general information about the exterior. This is just buildingcost.net information. But as you see, you don't have to fill out every single box here, just the pertinent information. Okay, so we'll go back down to page 2. Now page 2, all I have completed is the subject information. And of course some of this transfers to page 2 if you enter it above on page 1. You'll want to have this filled out. You definitely need all of this filled out because we transfer this into Appraiser Genie at a later point. And buildingcost.net uses this information to calculate the total replacement cost. So you want to make sure that's working. Al, are you still not able to hear me? Give me 1 second, guys. Okay, if you guys are having trouble hearing me, don't worry. As stated, once I finish this webinar, you guys can go to appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab, and you'll see the live version. So I'm going to go ahead. Now back to this section here. As stated, you'll want to have this subject information as accurately completed as possible. So generally you'll have already inspected the subject and you'll enter this information here. Now, if you don't have some of this, you can rely on public record information, but that's if it's retrievable. So keep that in mind. The more information you start with, the more accurate it will be. Okay, I don't have anything else filled out. That's the bare basics that I need. Okay, so once you have a report, you can have more information than this, but this is a minimum. And the way you access Appraiser Genie is you have to click on this dashboard button. Now, I already have Appraiser Genie installed, which is why you guys see Appraiser Genie at the bottom. If you have not installed Appraiser Genie, all you do is click Launch under the Total Store. And when you click Launch, if you scroll down just a little bit, you'll see our icon here, Appraiser Genie. If you click on this, here's the purchasing options. Definitely, if you're a brand new user, take advantage of the free trial. You'll get 10 free reports. They do handle any billing, so once you do utilize the 10 trials, Total will give you a little notification. You'll just come back here and decide if you want to pay per use, 10-pack, or monthly. Okay, so I already have this installed. I'm not going to do that again, of course. I'm going to close out of this browser. And what you'll actually do is you'll come back to the dashboard and close it. When you relaunch it, you'll then see the Appraiser Genie icon. All right, so what it's going to say initially when you're first installing it is it won't say launch, it'll say download. All you do is click on download and run the installation, and then you'll come back to the dashboard, and this is where you will be. You'll see the launch button. So the setup's very easy. It takes literally 2 seconds to do that. If you forget how to, just refer back to this video later. Now, one thing I did do is I recommend before you guys actually go through Appraiser Genie is to have your MLS export already done. So what I did is I logged into an MLS, my MLS interests or Intrace in Abilene, Texas, and I just did a simple neighborhood search based off this subject here. All I did is I then saved it to my computer, which I will show you guys where that is. You can dictate where this is saved. I very simply named it here, which is the subject address. So I'm going to double click this. And what you guys are seeing is my MLS search saved to my computer in our format. So these headers you see here, they're in a specific ordering, and that is why we have to so-called map your MLS, because most MLSs, they'll just export, in a random fashion, and we have to have them in an order. So this is something you guys will want to do beforehand. Genie is a cloud-based service, so sometimes if you navigate away from the Genie too long, it can time out. So that's why I recommend to do this beforehand. So this is the file I'm going to use later on in Appraiser Genie for all the analysis and support. And down here it looks like there's about 147. So all I did is I grabbed some active, solds, pendings. I went back at least a year. I searched a 2-mile radius by the subject address, and then I very simply limited it to single-family property types. I think I did a sales price too. I think I did 150 plus. And that's basically all I did. So I'm going to close this, or actually minimize it for now. And what we're going to do now, since I already have the MLS search done, I'm going to click on the dashboard button again. And now I'm ready to go ahead and click Launch. Okay, so once you click Launch, Genie or Total is looking for a currently open report. If you guys have more than one report open at a time, just make sure you have the right one selected here, and then click OK. Now what's going to happen is Genie is going to launch automatically with whatever you guys have set as your default web browser. We personally recommend Chrome, which is what is launching on my computer. You can use Internet Explorer, but we don't support it. So if you do run into random occurrences, most likely it's simply because you're using Internet Explorer. So just a recommendation, use Chrome or Firefox. Okay, now as you see when I launched Appraiser Genie, this is the login page. Now I already have an email and a password because I've used Genie quite a while. But if you're a brand new user, you're going to go down here and click Registration. All you're going to do is enter an email and password in your info. Then it's going to take you back to this page, and you'll just simply log in with that information. So I'm just going to go ahead and click Submit. All right, so what you guys see here is Appraiser Genie, and as you see, it launches on its own. Now, this is not the page you guys initially see if you're a brand new user, so I'm going to take you to that page just like it's your first time. There's a forward and backward tab at the top. All of these headers will later provide all the analysis, all the support, and we'll convert them into a PDF for you. So we're going to click this forward arrow because the first thing we want to do is set up our defaults. So at the very end, you have a tab here. It says Defaults. All you do is click on this tab. We'll go ahead and let that load. Okay, so the only difference, you guys will have a little pop-up box. It's going to be the Terms of Service. Very simply, you just scroll down to the bottom of the Terms of Service agreement, enter your initials, and you'll be where I am now. So the first thing you're going to do is make sure you guys have the right software selected. Of course, we're using Alamo today. ACI is finalizing, I believe, sometime within the next week or two. They'll actually be released. We are compatible with Appraiser, so you may use Appraiser. And ClickForms, that is pending. I don't have a definitive time frame, but if you guys use ClickForms, you can view that later. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go down the page. These defaults I already have set up, but I'm going to explain them to you. When you actually first time go through Genie, there'll be zeros in these fields. So what you can do, for example, if it's a 0, these little blue question marks, they help you out with this area and give you further information. So we click on this. Genie wants us to enter the maximum percentage of concessions. That's customary for my area. Anything over the maximum will automatically be adjusted. So, i.e., for example, if 4% concessions is usual and customary for your area, but the comp has 5%, we only adjust for the difference. So my maximum customary percentage for my area would be 3, which is a percentage. So I'm going to put a 3 there. If you guys, your MLS doesn't report concessions or you want to flat out make an adjustment for all concessions reported, you can put a 0. I'm going to put a 3. Age variance, whatever number you put here, Genie is not going to make an age adjustment for. So for example, I have a 5 here, so I'm telling Genie do not adjust for the first 5 years difference in age subject to comp, plus or minus. So if my comp was 1990, it would go as low as 1985 or 1995. It would skip that range. Anything over that we will make an age adjustment for. If you prefer to make an age adjustment for all years difference, just put a 0 there. I'm going to go back to a 5. Site size variance, that's a percentage, so whatever number I put here, Genie will not adjust for. So if my comps are within 30% of my subject site size, we won't adjust for that. Anything over 30%, we will adjust. So if you want to adjust for all site size reported, put a 0, or you can leave a 30 there, or whatever number is typical for you. Subject previous sales years prior, comps previous sales years prior. You're probably not going to change these two values because they're a default. I believe they are Fannie Mae requirement, but I do know if it's an FHA, you can change this comp previous sales years if needed. Minimum square foot to adjust, whatever number you put here, Genie will not make a GLA adjustment for. If you put 100, we skip that first 100 square foot difference. Anything over, we adjust for. Or if you just want all square foot adjusted, just leave it blank. Mathematics, just to answer your question, does Genie have verbiage explanation for variances as far as how do you use these fields, or I'm not sure I understand your question. Because we do have the little question marks which just simply tell you what to do here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move ahead. Adjustment rounding, this just tells you how precise do you want Genie to round the adjustments we provide you. Do you want us to round up to the next 100, 500, or 1,000? Of course, if you want it more precise, so to speak, I would leave it on 100. Matt, something I can add, you can. There's nothing that goes into the report as far as these variances. You could make a note of it, of course, and put it in the report saying I didn't adjust for the first 5 years age difference or concessions, whatever the case is, but there's nothing that will go into the report that says this right here, if that helps you. Okay, close date, whatever you choose here is going to be the ordering in which your comps are exported to your report. So if you prefer to order them by close date, contract date, whatever is in the drop-down box, you can select from here. Typically I see close date, but it's up to you. These down here are also optional. Anything with a checkbox just indicates that it is optional. If you prefer to provide your own effective age adjustment for the comps or the subject, all you do is unselect that and you will do that on your own. Same thing with reconciled value. We will give you a reconciled value based on the sales comparison approach and cost approach, but if you prefer to determine your own information later on, you just deselect this as well. It's up to you. Same thing with calculated adjustments. You may or may not use these depending on where you are. You may not make a wood deck adjustment typically, or you may not make a granite adjustment typically. Whatever applies to you, just deselect it. The ones remaining selected, we will provide this information for you later. All right, this National Association of Home Builders, this is actually the national average of the total construction cost as far as GLA. So this 61.7% is going to be rounded up to 62%, and that's actually going to be contributed to the GLA percentage out of the total replacement cost being 100%. You don't actually have to update this or do anything. You can right-click on this and go to Open Link in New Tab, and it will take you to their website. Anytime that's updated, we will update that for you as well. Now your MLS acronym, this refers to your MLS acronym. For example, this is ABOR, which is Austin Board of Realtors, Trace, which is in the Abilene or Fort Worth area, and this is just a random one, Cedar Rapids, I believe. Now, what you guys will do is once your MLS is set up, we will tell you what to put here for your MLS. The reason being is you can't just put a random acronym because we format it to you guys specifically. No worries, if that sounds confusing, it's not. We'll help you with this. Just give us a call and we'll tell you what to put there for you. Obviously, if you use Austin, it would be ABOR, and Trace is NTREIS. Now you have up to 8 different options, so if you are an appraiser who uses more than one MLS, you just list them all here. Okay, going down, verification source. This refers to the verification source field on your report. So right here under verification source, you can choose what Genie places there. So for example, if you want MLS assessor or anything other than that, you just type it into Genie or pull it from the drop down, and that's what will populate there. So for example, I have MLS assessor, so that's what's going to go in that box, MLS assessor. You can add to it. There's a drop down menu. Let's say you want to pull the doc number, list price, listing office, whatever the case is, you just select it from the drop down. And as you'll see, there's 3 drop downs. So you can have something here, something here, something here, and all 3 of this information, all 3 of the boxes will export to that field on your report. Rights, location, view. These are all here to basically help you guys fill out the comp grid as best as possible. Most MLSs don't let us export maybe location, rating, or factor, or functional utility, whatever the case is. So you can use something from these drop-down boxes, and that's what's going to populate in the comp grid for you. Or if you don't like what's in the drop-down box, example, functional utility, simply type whatever you want there, and you don't have to use these. I type DP insulation, so in my comp grid down here, for the functional utility, for my comps and my subject, it's going to say DP insulation. All right, so you guys will put whatever you want there. Energy efficiency, once again, you can choose from the menu or write your own. Now you'll see porch and patio is blank, and I purposely leave that blank. The reason being is most MLSs do not actually give us a viable field that includes any porch or patio information related to the comps. So you can put something here. Let's say you typically have covered porches maybe and covered patios in your area. You can put that in that box, which is fine, but for every comp, whether or not they have a porch or patio, it's going to say that here because we have no way of verifying it for most MLSs. So I leave it blank because I'd rather just deal with it once I'm back in the report. That's up to you. Next, you have blank row 1, blank row 2, and blank row 3. These refer to the 3 blanks at the bottom of your grid, and I go back and forth between the report and Genie so you can understand where it's coming from. This is blank row 1, this is blank row 2, and blank row 3. You can have up to 3 things in each blank. So for example, if you want fireplace, pool, upgrades, whatever the case is, you can choose that in Genie, and we'll export all this information in this top line back for the comps and the subject. I don't recommend that because you can only fit so much in there. For example, this says blank row 1, so here's my first blank option, fireplace. If I wanted to put something else in blank row 1, like in-law, I click it there. Or blank row 3, I would put list price. So all 3 of these will go back into this top blank here. And as stated, only so much you can fit there, so I wouldn't do more than 2 most likely. Now I don't care about in-law, so I'm going to blank these out. I just simply want fireplace in this first top row. You can have more than one, and it will just show you, do you want it separated by a dash, a comma, semicolon, or a slash. I leave blank row 2 blank because that kind of varies report to report. If I don't want to set something in stone, maybe leave it open and then personally enter my own information back in row 2 once I get back to the report. You can do that. And pool I have in blank row 3. Now I purposely put fireplace in 1 and pool in 3. And the reason why is no matter where you guys put fireplace on your report, if you want a fireplace adjustment, it always makes the adjustment in this first top blank. Same thing with pool. So if you want it to line up nicely once it's exported back, I recommend fireplace here and pool there. Okay, next you have public record verification. What you do here is when you choose the comps you want for the report, you can tell Genie which source you want us to verify the information with. So for example, as you see site I have set to public. All I'm telling Genie to do is once I pick the comps for my report, go ahead and rely on public records to fill out the site information for the comps. You can instead rely on MLS. If you feel like the MLS in your area is better than public records, by all means choose MLS, or peer. Now peer is simply a running average of comps that has been used previously in the Genie by other appraisers. So if you run across a comparable property that's been used previously, maybe by someone located in your area in the same MLS, we'll just say, okay, for site, averagely, the appraiser's using 1,500, whatever the case is. I don't really recommend you guys rely on peer. Maybe if you're in California or a much larger state where you know there's a ton of users, that's fine, but generally I recommend public or MLS. If you're not sure what source to use, such as basement square foot, leave it on Ask Me, and then later on you'll have a pop-up box and Genie will tell you what everyone said. Public, MLS, and peer, and then you can choose from there. So generally this is how I have it. Basement square footage, don't ever usually get that back, so I leave it on Ask Me. That way I don't set it to something and then have to manually enter it in later if they don't provide it. Okay, last thing here, column order. This is just going to refer to the comps. When you choose the comps for your report, you can order this information that's displayed for each comp. So for example, I like to quickly see the comp site, followed by age, followed by GLA, maybe year bill or sales price. You just very simply move these columns up or down, and it's just going to order this information based on how you want it to be displayed later. So if this doesn't make sense right now, we'll refer back to this once we get started. Okay, so once we're done with this page, we're going to scroll back to the top. If you see a little red asterisk, it's okay. You don't have to put anything there. You can skip it. And anytime we make a change, we always want to click Save. So we're going to save here. Now there are other tabs here. I will go over this briefly just so you guys know how to utilize the tabs. But you definitely don't have to set up something in every one. Abbreviations. What this means to you is when we export this information back to the report, such as Cool Central, how do you want it abbreviated in the report? Do you want us to use standard UAD, which is CAC, or do you prefer to see something written out? However you want to see it. You can erase these and write your own, and whatever you have displayed here, that's how it's going to be exported to the comp grid. So CAC, if any of my comps have central air conditioning, it'll say CAC. So it's just setting up abbreviations, or you can leave what we have here for you. Comments. The comments are pretty cool. We can fill out quite a few comments in the report for you. There's headers here which tell you where the comments go. So we're going to go down to the 1004MC, concession comment. Underneath the 1004MC, the comment, what you see here is what we're going to export to the report. So we have a bunch of pre-written comments that you can change, modify. In fact, you could erase these and write your own. All you do is delete this, write out your comment, make sure you save it. Anything in brackets is information we pull for each report for you. So we'll pull the sales quantity, concessions max, concessions predominant, etc. You can actually even pull more information. So if you wanted to add on to our comments, there's a little menu. It says Quick Pick. Let's say you want to further add on to the 1004MC and you want to pull the current list price, decreasing, stable, increasing, whatever it is. If you click this box, it puts it at the very end, and that means we're going to start pulling that information for each report. Now I'm going to delete it because it doesn't make sense with the comment, but as stated, you can change or modify these, any of them. If you like what we do, then leave them here, and if you do change this page, just make sure to click Save. I'm not going to save that change, of course. Definitions is a page of definitions. You will actually have this page exported to your work file. So don't worry, this is automatically provided in case you want to copy and paste these into your report for whatever reason. Graphs, now you can choose up to 10 different graphs. This is graph 1. You can choose from the drop down either month, quarter, or year. And below, you just click on a radio button to select the type of graph. So for graph 1, I'm basing it on quarter and I want a histogram. Graph 2, I have it set to quarter, I want dollar per square foot. This is going to be based off of your narrowed search. So pretty much your 1004MC, this is what this is based off of. Your true comparable properties, not the entire neighborhood. So I'm not going to change this. I already have some predefined here. Just make sure you guys go back and change this if you need to. And lastly, password. If you ever need to change the Appraiser Genie password you created earlier, you just go to new password, type it in, repeat it, and click Save. Alright, so that takes care of the defaults. We need to go ahead and start the report now. So what you do, once you're done with defaults and you save everything, we need to click this arrow and go all the way back over to the front, and we're going to click on Input. The Input page is what you guys will see from now on after you've ran through the Genie the very first time. Now keep in mind, as stated, you can always go back to the defaults. All you do is click back over and click on defaults, change anything and save it, and then just come back to the front here on Input. Now you'll see the subject address across the top. As stated, we're working on the legal and parcel. We've modified the public record aspect, so once you guys go through this on your own, maybe tomorrow, this will populate if it's not in the report. So it's not pulling it in if it's in the report either. This should be there tomorrow at some point. Okay, so you just fill out the page top going down. First, we're going to enter the effective date of the report. Now click the down arrow. There is a calendar. Choose whichever day it is. So I'm going to just go ahead and go with the first. Next, I need to select the form I'm using. There are quite a few different forms here. All of these we will fill out and complete for you. Make sure you have the right one selected. Okay, MLS acronym. Now if you have them saved in the defaults, they're going to be listed here. I'm using interest or Intrace, so make sure you guys have the right one selected if you use more than one MLS. Next is cost approach. Now there's a yes or no option. We actually run cost approach regardless because we need that information for depreciation, etc. But if the lender or client doesn't require that it's put into the report on page 3, you can select no. If you leave it on yes, we'll actually complete that in the report, but either way you'll still have the support for it even if you don't put it in the report. Okay, you have the REO addendum, quantitative REO, and listing addendum. These are all optional. If applicable, you can select the checkbox and we will complete this for you. You don't have to have a listing addendum in there already. So if you need this completed and it's not in the report, you can still select it and we'll just make the addendum for you and put it in there. Alright, so this section can be kind of confusing, but basically what we're going to do in a moment is we're going to import that file I showed you guys earlier, which is the neighborhood search based on about 147 comps. And what we want to do is we want to further narrow the 147 out. What you do here to the left is going to make up the narrowed comp search, which is in essence your 1004C. So you'll want to narrow this out to produce your true comp search and get rid of any outliers or any comps that are not truly comparable to the subject. So what you can do is we're going to take the subject site size up or down. Whatever percentage you put here, the comps have to be within that percentage or they don't return, meaning they'll stay in the neighborhood analysis, but they will not be in the 1004C or the true comp search. If you don't want to narrow it by something specific, just leave a 0 there and we'll just skip site size. We won't narrow it by that. So for example, age, I have 15 years. So all Genie is going to do is return comps that are within 15 years plus or minus the subject's age. If they don't meet the criteria, then you cannot select them for the report. Same thing with GLA. As you see here, it's a percentage. So I want my comps to be within 50% of my subject's GLA plus or minus. I don't really care about this criteria, so I left a 0 there, and we're just going to ignore everything else, but Genie will narrow by age and GLA. So this is a pretty cool tool. You use it to its benefit. What you do here is going to determine what your 1004 looks like, all the analysis. So if you get to this point and you feel like you might have narrowed it incorrectly, we can always come back. So I'll show you what this means later. Reconciliation weighting, all you do is score 1 through 10, 10 being most similar. Real quick, Matt, you said stories. What are you asking about stories, sir? You can't narrow it by stories. I didn't because they were all one story. You can actually put an equal sign here, so if you want the subject or the comps to have the same number of the stories as the subject, you can put an equal, and it has to be the same. So if you have 2 story properties somehow in the search and you want to restrict it to 1 story only because that's what your subject has, you can put an equal there. Or if you don't care, then you can put a 0 and we just don't narrow it by stories. Okay. Alright, so going back to here, what you will typically do, you're going to score 1 through 10, 10 being most similar. Most appraisers put a 10 here, and that's just telling Genie you want to assign the full weighting between the 3 methods to cells comparison approach. Now you don't actually have to do it that way. You could put an 8 here, maybe a 2 here, which is fine. It just has to add up to 10 in total. Okay, highest and best use. The top use here is residential. Below you have possible, which is also residential. Multifamily does display, but if that's not applicable, you can click the blank space from the down arrow to get rid of it. Land comp sales. Now this is very straightforward. If you have any land sales that you need to manually enter, you do that here. You just type in the address, sales price, site size, etc. If you put that here, that goes into consideration, of course, for land sales, and then you can determine a weighting as far as how much weight you want to contribute to the land. I don't see a lot of appraisers. I've actually only gone through 1 demo where anyone's ever used it, but it's here if you need to manually enter them. Square foot method. This section is also editable. These green boxes, any of them that are green anywhere, you can manually enter information. You just transfer it to the boxes. Now, typically I don't see anyone enter anything here because this is if you use Marshall and Swift for cost approach. All you do is refer back to their information, transfer it to the boxes you see here. We will consider that, or very simply leave it blank, and we'll automatically use buildingcost.net to fill this out. So this Q3 is coming from my report, which is what I assigned the subject, and buildingcost.net uses this information. So once again, you can skip this bottom section. You can skip land sales if it's not necessary. And all we do is scroll back to the top of the page now. Now what you'll do once you fill out page 1 is we need to click on Start New Report. Once you click on this box, your computer's File Explorer opens on its own, and it's telling you you need to import an MLS search now. So the file I saved earlier, once again, it's down here. I just saved this in my webinar folder. And all I'm going to do is import that now because I need to run the analysis, pick my comps, etc. So I'm just going to double click on it. And what Genie is going to do is going to take that neighborhood search. We're going to narrow it down based on this age parameter, this GLA parameter, and we're also going to scrub the MLS, make sure there's no non-UAD compliant information in there. If the realtor miskeys, we kind of scrub it, make it compliant for you guys in the process. Now you'll automatically be taken to this pop-up box. Very simply what we did is we took the subject information here on page 2. All of this information is transferred into this pop-up because this gets sent to buildingcosts.net for the total replacement cost. So you'll want to look through here, make sure everything's accurate. If you need to modify or change anything, feel free to do so. Very importantly, make sure the quality and condition is accurate for the subject. You can have too high or too low adjustments if these are not correct. Now this one's been remodeled. I think maybe within the last 4 years, something like that. So I didn't go with a Q4, I just went with a Q3. It's up to you guys. You guys will determine that, of course. Everything looks good, so I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Now what we're going to do is we're going to grade and sort the comps. You guys are about to be taken to the narrowed search. So remember, we narrowed it by GLA and we narrowed it by age. This little pop-up you won't see here, so I'm going to close out of that. What you will see is this counter at the top. So going back to the initial file, we had 147 comps in there, and because I narrowed it, it took me down to 47. So that's what I mean when I say neighborhood search and I say true comp search. These 47 properties are my true comps based on the neighborhood search I did and then the initial narrowing I took advantage of on page 1, which is your input page. So I'm going to give you some background on this page. The solds, there are 38 solds. For solds, matched pairs and regression analysis is going to be ran based on the amount of solds I see on this page. So if you feel like you want more solds, of course, in the regression analysis, all you do is click back on the Input tab. You can widen up those parameters to return more solds here. Now, I'm not in like a super cookie cutter neighborhood like California where I can grab, 500 or 600 solds or 300 or 400, however many. So this is just going to be dependent on what you can pull and what's right for that subject and, of course, comparable properties. So regression's not going to be super accurate for me. We recommend at least 100 solds. If you can't get 100 solds, I understand. We'll still give you a regression adjustment if we're able to, and you'll have the support and the analysis for it, but it may or not be accurate, so keep that in mind. So once again, solds are based on the matched pair analysis and regression. And allocation and extraction, we only use the subject and the comps you use for your report. Mathematics, yes, you can use historical sales. Remember, whatever transfers to this page is dependent on your MLS search and your narrowing, excuse me. So if you need to grab more comps from your MLS, you could actually go back to 5 years. If you just purely want to run regression off of, 400 or 500 comps, you can do that. That's just dependent on you. Okay, so this 47 in total is how many comps we narrowed it down to, and of course the 38 sold and the 6 actives, that's going to make up my 1004MC. Once again, if I feel this is too narrowed or too defined, I can go back and widen it up because you can change the 1004MC however you guys see it fit, of course. So just remember, you're in control of this aspect. I'm fine with this information here, so what I'm going to do now is scroll down. You'll notice when I use this horizontal bar all the way over, there's a ton of information here for each comp. Now earlier I told you guys you can reorder the column headers based on how you want it to be displayed. So as stated, I prefer site up front, followed by age, GLA, year built, sales price, etc. Don't forget to move those around. That's definitely going to help you. You don't want to have to scroll all the way over if you can just reorder it and see it immediately. Now this page is actually put in order for you, starting at the top, going down. We order it with closest proximity to the subject, followed by most recently sold, followed by least adjusted, sold, actives, pendings. So this isn't a predefined order. If you want to take advantage of the narrowing and then our ordering, of course the more comparable properties should be towards the top of the page, but by no means do you have to use our ordering. So for example, let's say you prefer to order maybe ascending or descendingly based on sales price or whatever, you can click on the column header. It's going to load, and then we will reorder it. So 0, which is going to be inactive, so it's going lowest to highest. I can click back on it, and it should go highest to lowest. Okay, so here's highest to lowest. You can click on any of these. You can click on street name. You can click on anything alphabetical, whatever helps you guys in determining the comps you want to use for your report. So what I'm going to do here is I need to select the comps that I want to use for my report. Total, you can grab up to 15 comparables, so it's up to you. You have to grab at least 3 sold. Of course, the S indicates sold. When you scroll down, any A's are active, which should be below solds. I did reorder it, sorry, the sales price. So there's the actives, and P is pendings. So what I'm going to do is I already actually have some I've determined I want to use. So I'm actually going to hit Control F as in find on my keyboard. You'll have this little pop-up box, and if you know what you're looking for, instead of manually scanning through it, just type in the street number, and it's going to highlight it in orange at the bottom, and you can just click on the address you need. So I'm going to go ahead and pick the rest of them. 6900. Oh, gotta enter it right first. Okay. So these are the 3 properties I want to use. So once again, if you already have an idea, just hit Control F, or you can manually scan through here to find the comps you want to use. Just remember the ordering of the page if that helps you. If you do decide to change the ordering around by clicking on sales price or any of the headers, you can actually click this Reset Sort Order button, and it just reverts it back to the ordering you saw when you were taken to this page. So just remember that's there if you need to. The subject box, all that does is earlier when you saw the subject information, it just populates it back so you can review it. Okay, and lastly, delete selected comps. If somehow after you narrow it, everything like that, if a comp gets to this page and you feel like it's still an outlier, you don't want it in the 1004MC, you don't want it in any analysis, all you do is select the address, then you click on delete selected comps. It's going to ask you if you're sure. You're going to click yes. I'm of course not. And it's going to kick it out from this page. So you do have control over the comps that are used for any analysis, 1004MC, anything. Okay, so I have the properties I want to use, and I'm going to go ahead and click next. Now we're going to go ahead and transfer this information for 4804 and the other 2 comparables. And where I'm taken to is the last page. The blue tabs, they just let you know where you are in Genie, so we're on the side-by-side. And the side-by-side should look similar to page 2 of your report. So if you go down to page 2, on the left-hand side you have your subject information. So all this information is once again transferred, and all of the information that's uploaded is just transferred from that page. Now you can modify it at this point. Let's say you want to change the age, whatever the case is, you just type in the box, click enter, and any adjustments that may have been affected by that change will update. So this page is not in stone. You can completely modify it, same thing with your comparables. So here's my first comp I chose, 4804. You just grab the horizontal bar. And all the information that you see entered comes from whatever I set for my defaults, either public, MLS, or peer. Anything in pink just means public records were pulled. So this MLS probably didn't have a story account, which is why I set it to public, and that way we filled it in with public information. Or you can simply write your own. It's up to you. So we can go over. Here's my second comp, 6900 Wicks Trail. And lastly, I have 5325 Court, Weddington Court. Not sure if that's a typo in the MLS or not, but it's a court. Okay, so everything that's filled in here, as stated, you can modify this. If you look straight across the page, this is site, and look straight across. So it should follow horizontally straight across. Here's your view overall, neutral, neutral, view factor, residential, residential. And it's going to go straight across for all comps, age, etc. Now this is actually the point where you're going to choose the comps, the adjustments that you want to make for the report. By no means do you have to use all of the adjustments. You can use whichever ones you like. But the cool thing with Genie is regardless if you use them now or not, we're still going to give you the support for all adjustments that we do provide for you. So for example, If you look up, you have a header in black that says adjustment. Right below it, it's going to tell you the type of adjustments we give you. This is time per month. This is your land value. Of course, this is age, bath, bedroom, GLA, basement, that if applicable, if any of the comps or the subject have a basement. Below grade rooms, heat, cool, garage, fireplace, vents, pool. So some of these may or may not provide an adjustment. It depends on the data and the analysis that we have. So just keep that in mind. You may not see an adjustment for every single one. So we're going to go back up. And this is the time per month adjustment. If you look up, you have a matched pairs column, an allocation column, extraction here, and regression here. So this is telling me if I want to make a time per month adjustment, the only method we use to derive one is extraction. If I want more information about these adjustments, I just go to the tab, extraction. I'm going to look up, go to extraction. And as I scroll all the way down, forecasting adjustment, this number is going to give me the convert to monthly. We very plainly put the formulas if needed. So it tells you this is column A, this is B. We take A plus B times 12, which gives you C. So all of this information is going to be converted to a PDF and put in the work file. So here's my time per month adjustment. You can further read into this page if you want more information. As stated, any actual calculations, it tells you what to do. And this will be in your work file, and I will show you that once we're done. So we're going to go back to side by side. Side by side is the adjustment grid. So you can venture and look at any of these tabs. Once you get to side by side, once you see that adjustment grid, all the information is loaded. So you can come back and look around. We can go to reconcile. Maybe I want more information about our reconciled value. So of course we provide the weighted by gross dollars, by net dollars, quantity of adjustments. These are averaged out, and that's going to give you this average value here. So this is going to be what is placed in my sales comparison approach down here, of course, on, I always go the wrong way, here. And that's pretty close. 159.4 is the sales price, 155. This is changeable. Of course, the more adjustments, right here, excuse me, yeah. The more adjustments you make to the comps or don't make, that's going to influence this. The more similar the comps are to the subject, that's going to influence this. So you can always stop when you get to side by side and come to this reconcile value, and you can look at this information. You can go down and look at the quantity of adjustments for the subject and the comps. Same thing with net dollars. You can look at this information here, weighted by gross dollars, and then down here you have, of course, cost approach, sales comparison approach, and then of course I allocated the full weight to 155, which is sales comparison. So keep in mind, you guys can kind of play around with this and tailor it to what you feel is accurate. So we're going to go back to the side by side so I can choose my adjustments, which is right here. Alright, so what I'm going to do now, if I want to actually make any adjustments in my grid, I need to click on them. So let's say I like this time per month adjustment. I'm going to click on this box. Now the adjustment will load and it's going to apply it directly across, but it's a little bit slower when I'm actually in GoTo meeting or GoTo webinar. So if this is kind of lagged, it's just because, there we go. So see how it turned blue? Here you have the settlement date, and straight across you have the adjustment value. Same thing, settlement date, adjustment value, same thing here. So if it doesn't do it immediately and you have like more than one person in your computer, just give it a second. Okay, site value. Now this is your land value. So for example, 9,600 is the extraction land value, regression is 20,734, and as stated, this can be super high or super low, just depends on your amount of sold data. Allocation's blank, and I purposely chose this to show you guys something. If you notice you don't have a site adjustment for allocation, we need to go to the land tab because we pull the county assessor's improvement value and land value. So I'm going to scroll down. Right here under land allocation method, you're going to see assessor total value, assessor improvement value, and assessor land value. For the subject, looks like we have the improvement value and for the comps, but the land value is returning 0. If we don't have the land value for whatever reason, you'll have to manually enter it in, and then of course we'll recalculate and give you an allocation side adjustment. As stated, we're working on public records and county records, so this is probably should have been returned, but that's not an issue. It's just something we're updating. So what will happen is you'll go down here and you'll have an allocation land value, and that will populate on the side-by-side. So for now, we're just going to go back. Most of the time, I don't ever see it 0. So you guys probably very rarely will ever have to enter anything there. Okay, so this is the extraction land value for site. I can't click on that, but my comps are actually within 30% of my subject. So remember in my defaults, I went over site size variance, and I told it to not adjust if the comps are within 30%. So I'm not actually going to click on the site because these are all within 30%. Okay, I don't really make an age adjustment. I actually told Genie to skip over the first 5 years. 46, 41, so that's 5 years, that wouldn't adjust, and so forth. Now bath, I may want to make a bath adjustment, so if there's a difference, of course, subject to comps for a bath count, we can click on this. Momentarily it'll load blue, and then it's going to make a bath adjustment if needed. So this one did not. If you look right here, it's got a $0 value. Room count, bed, bath, same thing here. I don't believe this one either. Same thing, 2 baths. And 2 baths. So that one didn't make an adjustment because there was not one needed. Now GLA, we can either use $55 for allocation, $51 for extraction, or $40 for regression. I'm just going to go ahead and go with 51. Of course, we'll let that load in a moment. And across, here is my first comps GLA against my subject. And that is per square foot. So it's going to make a $51 adjustment per square foot difference, which is why this value is here. Same thing with this one here and this one here. Now if you decide, you know what, I want to go with 55 or 40, all you do is click on the alternative box. It will recalculate the adjustment. Now these are very similar to my subject. This has 2-car attached and driveway, and I believe these all have the same. Yes, so even if I click on adjustment, it's not going to apply, but this is for a garage space and this is for a carport. Of course, regression, as stated, is pretty high, so I don't think you would actually click on these, but we'll give you the support for the analysis. Fireplace, as stated, if I were to make a fireplace adjustment, my subject has a fireplace, my first comp does too. Looks like the second comp has a fireplace, and the third. So it's not applicable here, but if I were to make a fireplace adjustment, it's going to put it in this top row here, right next to each comp, and then it's going to export back to the top blank. Same thing with pool. I don't have a pool. Looks like probably none of mine have a pool, so there's no pool adjustment. Okay, so a couple more things to show you. Once you've clicked on the adjustments you want in the grid, you can go back up here to Realtor or Tax in Blue. If you click on these buttons, if the MLS gives you any list or sell agent information or remarks, we will include that here, and that's just a reference. And taxes in blue, if we retrieve the tax info, which as stated it's blank for now, that will populate on its own. Alright, so what we're going to do now, once we have all the comps we selected, and remember if I didn't select them, they won't be in the grid, but I'll have the support. We're going to go ahead and click on this Export to Report button on the left. It's going to prepare my report. Everything I did in the Genie, it's going to transfer back to total. So we're going to wait for that. And you can choose anything that a land value that was derived. So earlier when I showed you guys the site, right here it says 9,600, 20,000. Whatever you click here is going to go into your cost approach for the opinion of site value. So you determine what goes there. If nothing was derived, of course, then nothing would go there. If you click on none, it will be empty. I'm just going to go ahead and go with extraction, for example, and click next. So we'll let this load. In a moment, we'll have a pop-up box from total, and that's what we're waiting for. Now, once you guys get the hang of it, I literally explained every facet of the Genie. But once you guys have a general grasp of it, it's a very easy program to use. It's very quick. Okay, so this pop-up box, this is the Total Data Wizard. You guys probably see this with other programs you use. You're always going to want to merge into a currently open report. Make sure you have the correct report selected. Now, replace the data in my open report is what we generally recommend. If you leave it on keep, now let's say you had the 1004 MC already filled out, or let's say you already had cost approach filled out. If you did, we don't override it. But if you don't want us to complete maybe the 1004 MC, maybe you did it yourself, then you can leave it on keep and we won't override it. Otherwise, you want to click replace, and if you have a sketch, please make sure to check that and click import. Alright, so what you'll see at the bottom, total is going to highlight orange. That's just letting you know it's complete. So before we even touch this here, we're going to go back to total and click on this. We're going to go back to page 2. Of course, you'll see the information already entered here. Anything in red means, for whatever reason, that comp, we got partial information. So we knew it was a detached one story, but we didn't get the design. And that comes from that MLS file. So whatever is in this file here for general information like that, if it's in there, like these two, we'll transport it back to the report. If the realtor flat out doesn't enter the design, then you'll want to retrieve that and enter it yourself, which may or may not be common, depends on where you are. Now these condition ratings, that's like a sliding scale that we built. We will determine a condition rating based on the effective age that we have implemented. You do not have to use these C4, it's more so like a reference, and we do not fill out the quality. We have never found a viable way to actually give you guys an accurate quality rating for the comps, so that'll be blank. You would just select it yourself, unless you already knew what the quality was. Theoretically, I suppose you would use comps that are the same quality as the subject, but do what you need to there. Okay, any adjustments I actually clicked on in the Genie, you'll see the adjustments here. The ones I did not click on, they're not in the grid, but they are in my support. Going back to porch, patio, deck, earlier in my defaults, I left porch and patio blank because I want to manually enter that myself. Blank row 2, I left that blank in Genie because I want to do that myself. So that's why these are blank here. We'll go down to cost approach. Of course, you'll have this verbiage here. This is a standard comment. As stated, you can go back to your defaults in the comment section. You can rewrite this or use what we have here. Buildingcosts.net, they give us the replacement cost new, which is why we check this. We will put here whatever you guys assign as the quality rating. A Q3 is good, Q4 is average for them, and then of course the month and year. Now here is the indicated value by cost approach. Porch and patio allocates 8802. That comes from cost approach. I'll show you more information on that. Of course, I have my garage square footage at the dollar per square foot, and here is my cost approach value, 153,356. Okay, so we'll go back down, and here is my sales comparison approach. So that went up due to me clicking on adjustments and further changing the net value. So that's going to increase or decrease. And as stated, if you can change this value, just make sure you do that in the Genie. If you get to reconcile and you feel like it's too high, you can try selecting different comps than the ones you chose, make different adjustments. Of course, that'll change that here. Market conditions addendum. You'll have this information filled out for you. This is an example of a comment that goes into the report as a standard comment, which you can change. Of course, you'll have this information displayed, and this is based off the narrowed search, which is my true comp search. And the boxes are checked to the left as well, to the right. Alright, so one more thing to show you guys, the work file tab at the top, all our support, all the adjustment, that's going to be provided here. So we're going to click on work file. Now all of these PDFs you see, these are just converted, the converted tabs in the Genie. So for example, if you want more information on 1004, you can click on that. And you will see all the information about your 1004, including your neighborhood search, your concessions. Go ahead and close that. And you'll have your age, low, high predominant, neighborhood, whole, high predominant. And of course we have the sold active REO count. Now you can click on any of these. If you want more information about allocation, you can click on the tab and you'll have information here. Same thing with extraction. Anything related to extraction as far as average dollar per square foot for GLA, We'll give you that information here, but we give you the numbers above it to tell you how we derive that. So here's your comps and all the information for it. Here's your site variance, diminishing return, and of course you have your basement, finished, unfinished, etc. Reconciled value, that's also in here, as I showed you guys earlier. Excuse me, that's regression. So regression, very simply, all regression does is it basically provides you the calculus that goes into regression, and then at the bottom, the data set, we tell you every sold property that went into the regression analysis. We give you the variable, meaning GLA, beds, bath, etc., the value, all that's for you guys. I'm not very good with regression. I don't use it. I don't understand it, but it's there if I want to tell someone, hey, I chose extraction or allocation because look what regression gave me. Whatever the case is, it's kind of a way of saying this is why I didn't use it. So it's always there even if you don't use it. Reconcile, that's going to just be similar to the tab I showed you guys earlier. And there are a couple of graphs in here. Now the graphs depend on the information that was provided to us. So maybe you have 12 comps that go into the 1004. Maybe that's just the kind of area you're in. That's just going to depend on what you see here. So you may have a flat line. If there's not enough change, it will simply be a flat line quarterly. Dollar per square foot, if there's enough information, you'll see that here. And you can go back and change these as much as you need to in the default. Now one more thing, you can click on these if you want to actually put them in the report. Let's say you like the allocation. You click on it, go to Insert as Page, label it whatever you want, which could be allocation, and go to OK. Alright, and at the very end of forms down here, you're going to have allocation in the report. So use these guys however you see fit. And that's pretty much the gist of it. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone. Matt Maddox, to answer your question, no. If you want to ask Andy at appraisergenie.com more so about the time per month adjustment or a filter, so to speak, email him directly. He'll give you more information on that. And you can always look at the extraction PDF, of course. That'll give you more information about the time per month adjustment. Hey, anyone else have any questions today?
I would like to know when you're going to have this this same thing once again.
A webinar, you mean?
Yes, a webinar, because this is the first time I looked at it. I haven't used this at all. And, you know, you went over it because you're an expert at it, but I'm going to need to go over it another once or twice, maybe more.
Okay, that's not a problem. That's why we give you guys 10 free uses. I do total every Monday, 4 to 5. Appraise it's Wednesday, and then once ACI is released, they'll be Friday. So we do it every week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Okay, well, I use Appraiser. So that's a Wednesday?
Yes, sir. If you go to appraisergenie.com, if you click on the training tab, you can watch, I did an Appraise It demonstration. There's a video up there. You can watch it. Or just sign up for the next one, which will be Wednesday, and just fill out the registration form.
Okay. I'd be able to go to it any day or any night that I want to?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I make sure these are recorded and converted and put online. Not everyone can make a certain time frame for a webinar, but that way you guys don't miss it, and they'll hear any questions that were asked as well. So feel free to review it anytime.
All right. Very good.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Anyone else have anything I can help you with?
Do you have any idea as to when the you guys are going to get together with the assessors or the because nothing ever comes through. Every time I've used the Genie, I don't get any document numbers, anything from the county.
Okay. Who am I speaking with?
Matt Maddox.
Okay, Matt. You're in Vegas, right? In that area?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You should not have that problem if you're in Vegas. The easiest way is what I can do is I can help you personally with that. It could be a multitude of things. Something not set right for your specific account, something in your mapping, but GLVAR is one of the more prominent MLSs used in Las Vegas. I'm not sure if that's the one you use, but
It's the only one.
okay. I didn't know if it was the only one, but I knew it was prominent. I haven't had any issues with dock number, county assessor, so I will email you as soon as I get off this webinar and we can figure that out.
Because I've talked with Roger. I've said that, you know, and they said that you guys gone from Realist to some other company, and I don't. When it was with Realist, it was hit and miss. Sometimes I would get assessors doc numbers, but it's one of the things that keeps me from using it.
Okay, I'll look into that. I know we switched to First American, which I think owns ACI or whatever the case is. They bought out ACI, something along those lines. We switched from Realist because there was too much intermittent access. It would be down for like 3 or 4 days and then would go back up. So we switched because of that. But I can look into your area. I have a ton of GL, VAR, MLSs I can run through and see if I have a dock problem. If I do, then I'm sure our programming team can find a more viable way to provide that for you, whether it's implementing Realist for you, I don't know, but either way I will let them take care of it for you.
Okay.
Shouldn't be an issue. We have people in Wisconsin, rural areas, and we pulled a dock number for them, so I don't see why Las Vegas would be a problem. Anybody else have any other questions? All right, if you guys want to visit appraisergenie.com, click on the training tab. You can watch this webinar later. Once again, if your MLS has not been mapped, please email MLS@appraisergenie.com or call our sales team at 325-704-2592. Once again, my name is Angelia. I'm the sales support lead. If you guys have any questions, feel free to email me at info@appraisergenie.com. Anything I can help you guys get set up, just let me know and I'll be glad to help. Thank you guys for attending. You have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, you too.
Yes, sir.